Be inspired by the best sales professionals, sales leaders, and coaches in the world of B2B sales. From IT services, medical devices, through to coaching and consulting companies, these principles will help you accelerate your sales performance and growth. Using models from the best-selling book Inspire, Influence, Sell, and award-winning programs from Focus for Growth, you'll have the inside track on the psychology, skills, and systems used by the world's best sales teams. We'll hear from some of the best sales leaders from some of the fastest growing businesses in the world. They don't achieve record-breaking growth by chance. They have a proven sales and leadership approach and a laser focus on growth. You can hear exactly how they do it, one conversation at a time. This is the Inspire Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Justin Lee. Welcome to this episode of the Inspire Sales Podcast. Today, I'm going to speak to Usman Sheikh. And Usman's got a really interesting business. He runs a business called XIQ, which we'll learn more about in the podcast. But today's episode is different because it's really thinking about how technology plays a part in helping sales professionals and sales leaders become more productive, more effective, and more efficient through their sales research and their sales approach. And Usman has incredible experience leading product development and sales at SAP. And you'll hear from today's episode that it's got some really interesting insights around how we develop our sales approach and how we can use AI to really help us accelerate sales growth and opportunity in our businesses. So let's not hold you up any longer. Get ready for this episode with Usman Sheikh. Welcome to the Inspire Sales Podcast. On this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Usman Sheikh. Let me just quickly read Usman's bio because it's pretty impressive. Usman is the visionary founder and CEO of XIQ, an award-winning B2B sales and marketing platform. As a futurist and design thinker, Usman aims to humanize B2B sales and marketing by leveraging generative AI and behavioural science. Usman's a graduate of the University of Michigan, and before XIQ, Usman held various global roles at SAP. Most of you will be familiar with SAP, including Vice President of Corporate Development, Product Management, Sales Enablement, and Digital Commerce. I'm really, really privileged to have Usman with us on the Inspire Sales Podcast today. Usman, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Justin. Good to be here.
Yeah, our pleasure. My pleasure, genuinely. Usman, so I've read your bio out, but in your own words, give us a kind of taste for what you do and how you operate.
Yes. So as you mentioned in my introduction, I used to work at SAP, and I had the privilege of being able to partake in some really advanced enterprise software development and rollout projects over there.
Yeah.
At the same time, I had the ability to see how some of the top sales professionals in B2B software sales work. And so from there, I learned a lot, both in terms of how to develop products and platforms that can actually work in an enterprise environment, and also very pragmatically address the business issues and challenges that those salespeople and marketing people face day in, day out.
Wow.
And so we have developed a platform today that incorporates some unique capabilities. It uses generative AI. We've become very familiar with generative AI in the last 1 year or year and a half.
Yeah.
And with ChatGPT's explosion. But we've been using generative AI for almost 6 years now. And we've started using generative AI to predict the personality type of a human, of a person that you may be potentially selling to.
Okay.
And by doing so, we could pull that information and those insights into helping us shape what our sales pitch, what our sales strategy would look like for that specific person in the decision tree. And so it's been a journey building out XIQ as a platform. XIQ stands for Multiply Your IQ. And as I said, it incorporates a lot of generative AI. It pulls in a lot of real-time data about companies and people. And it uses behavioral science and psychology to help you understand the mindset of your prospective buyers. So you can incorporate that into customizing and custom tailoring your sales strategies.
Wow.
And that's the platform today that B2B sellers are using to accelerate through their sales cycle and cut through the volumes and oceans of data that's out there that we just simply don't have time to analyze and use to its full potential. So XIQ helps you do that.
Wow. I mean, let's break it down then, Osman. So, could you talk through how it helps businesses? I mean, I'm familiar with ChatGPT and the multiple variations of AI platform, um, and generative AI as a concept, but you've got this quite unique combination with behavioral science and thinking about the psychology of the buyer and how the platform is helping people to start to anticipate those buyers' needs. Can you tell us a bit about how that works in practice? What are some of the ways in which XIQ would help a business?
Certainly, yeah. So we're all familiar with ChatGPT, and it's almost like a search engine. You go there, you put in a prompt. Based on the prompt, the engine will go and find answers up to a particular certain expiration date, however, right? And will bring you that information. You can search on it, it'll tidy it up, make it very presentable. Now think about that being applied to sales. So let's pause over there for a second and look at B2B sales. What are the dynamics at work in B2B sales? Long sales cycle, multiple decision makers, each having their own personal agendas as well as their corporate agendas.
Yeah.
And a lot of gatekeepers that are checking for legal, IT compliance, data privacy, security, all sorts of health and safety regulation, environmental stuff. There's a lot of regulation going on. So B2B sellers are those that are selling into these environments. They're complex environments. They take a lot of time. They're multiple decision makers.
Mm.
However, the return, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is quite significant. B2B deals are large. There's a lot of dollar value associated with that. And therefore, the buyers, deliberate when making buying decisions.
Mm.
And sellers have to plow through that and work. Gartner says about 12 to 18 people involved in a decision-making cycle, right? So you got to convince those. There's quite a lot of people that you have to go through. So how XIQ works is today, a modern day B2B seller needs to have four key skill sets or complementary roles. One, that of a research analyst. They need to be constantly looking and researching about their clients, whether those be people, those be companies, or those be industries.
Mm.
And the good news is that there's a lot of information and data out there. The bad news is that it's all fragmented and distributed across the entire internet and in some other places. So getting to that data is virtually impossible in a timely manner to use it. So that's number one. So you need to be able to be a good research analyst. Second thing, you've got to be able to write. You've got to be able to write to be able to communicate. You need to be able to articulate the value proposition of your solution to your client. You need to be able to, so you need to wear the hat of a copywriter, so to speak. The third thing is you need to be able to map your solution to the clients or the prospects' business opportunities and challenges. And that's another thing salespeople struggle with significantly. And therefore, you almost have to wear the hat of a solution engineer. And lastly, a day in the life of a salesperson also incorporates briefing their colleagues, writing emails, doing social media posts, coming up with quarterly business reviews, preparing their account plans. That's the fourth dimension of what a salesperson has to do. And that's almost the role of a sales assistant. Now, XIQ, what it does is it plays those four roles for you on a virtual basis. So it's an AI chatbot. We call him Gilroy. It's available on your mobile device. It's available on your desktop. you go into Gilroy. Gilroy fetches information from 4 unique data pools. Number one, it has this ability to look up people, pull up their behavioral insights, and then recommend this person is a dominant or an influencer or a steady or a conscientious person, and therefore you should adopt XYZ tactic to write to them or how to pitch to them. What are the do's and don'ts on how to engage with them, for example. So it has all this behavioral insight coming into it, and that can go into formulating a response. Second thing is, it's obviously a large language model. It has been trained to write extremely good English, and not only English, it can function in 144 different languages today. So somebody sitting in China, for example, would be saying, hey, I want to reach out a prospect in the UK. Can you please craft an email? And they would say all of that in Mandarin or Chinese, and XIQ will translate and write a very perfectly written email um, for that person in English that they could send out. And because that email would incorporate their behavioral insights, it would have the tonality and the emotional resonance for having a much higher probability of getting opened and read. Right?
Right.
So these are the practical applications of how a chat GPT type engine can help enterprises by fetching information from across the internet, distilling it and analyzing it into behavioral insights, using that to connect the dots and helping you understand what are the business opportunities, challenges. And the next thing is, it can also read your corporate collateral. So that means it can read your product brochures, white papers, case studies. And in doing so, it has a knowledge about your product. So now when salespeople have to figure out why would your prospect want to buy your product, they can actually turn to Gilroy and ask him. And Gilroy can go and find out what are the opportunities within that business, what are the threats, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. And based on that, it can come back and tell you how your product or what elements of your product would help that company in in achieving their goals. And therefore, you could and these are the value propositions, and this is how you'll pitch it. So it really cuts through a lot of different, very laborious, time-consuming steps in seconds to bring this information to you right away.
Wow.
And yeah.
So if you think about you think about the sales cycle, you said yourself, Osman, the sales cycle is long in that B2B corporate environment. If you think about the sales cycle, which parts of the sales cycle would you say the platform is most beneficial and most useful? Is it right the way across the sales process? Is it earlier in the sales process when you're doing that, information gathering, research, as you say? Whereabouts does it really come to kind of be a strong kind of? I guess it's an advocate for sales efficiency, isn't it? We're really helping with sales efficiency here.
Yeah, so it's a great question, by the way, and it's full funnel coverage. So
Okay.
from demand generation and awareness generation, which is very much at the top, because the PEP element of XIQ, since we can generate content and we can curate the internet, we have derivatives like newsletters that we can build out. These are really, really great tools for salespeople to send out to their engaged audience to nurture them through the sales cycle by educating them about whatever product or industry that they're selling to. So that's very much at the top of the funnel. We have email writing capabilities. So throughout the funnel, anytime, whether you're writing a very early stage email or you're writing a negotiations level email, you can use it. XIQ can also be used throughout this as you're engaging with different people within the organization. It can help you prepare for that. It can help you for different types of meeting, first meeting, second meeting, negotiations. It can help you through that full cycle. And it can also help you even write responses for proposals. So RFPs, it can help you respond to RFPs as well. So
Wow.
the full cycle, and not only does it help you till end of the deal closure, it can go beyond into the client services and post-sale services support roles as well. So it's really, really full funnel capabilities. And we did that on a purpose, with a purpose. The reason
Mm.
was today, full funnel coverage is done through a hybrid set of multiple solutions that
Yeah.
have to be strung along and integrated. The cost of connecting those solutions, not only in terms of dollars, but more importantly, in terms of intelligence lost across those those silos when you go from CRM to marketing automation to sales intelligence to engagement to writing emails to generating content, all those silos, you lose insight, you lose information, you get further from the topic and the subject that you're writing about.
Yeah.
And the loss of intelligence is extremely costly, and the delay is extremely costly. They
Mm.
say that 50% of B2B deals are won by sales rep who are first responders to their clients' requests and needs. So that's really, really a big number. And
Mm.
what XIQ does is it helps you put together a very well-researched and educated response to something that could be happening in the marketplace. And use that as a trigger point to start a conversation or
Yeah.
engage that person, bring that person back into talking to you.
Yeah. So what I mean, it's fascinating, Osman. I can, from my experience as a sales professional, sales leader, business leader, and now coach, I can immediately start to see some of the indications where this technology would really help with sales efficiency, productivity. I would also imagine speeding up the pipeline and qualification as well. So have you got some examples of where people have used this and how it's changed the way that they operate and what that means for their business? What's the, you know what I mean? Because a lot of what you've talked about is kind of almost sounds what it almost sounds too good to be true. It's really on the front edge of cutting innovation here. So I'd love to hear like maybe a couple or a use case or a specific customer that you've worked with and what they've noticed. What are some of the results and outcomes that they've gained from it?
Yes, certainly. And we have a growing number of such case studies as the one I'm going to cite right now.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have lowered the bar on the ease of using this. So one of the things we provide are in the platform is a prompt library. So if you know ChatGPT, it's like the way you ask the question is the way you'll get the response.
Yes.
And so we don't want salespeople and marketing people to become prompt engineers and start figuring out what kind of language to use to ask Gilroy, who's our AI chatbot, how to frame that question. So we've already framed it, made it really easy. What that does is it suddenly gives sales reps really the ability to tap into very, very deep insights and AI-based insights at their fingertips, literally at a press of a few buttons, right? What it also does is it also becomes an early warning system for them. So for example, because XIQ is collecting information on your companies, if something happened, a merger and acquisition is announced, a new product is released, executive movement has taken place,
Yeah.
a partnership has been formed, right? Any cybersecurity threats or legal suits have come in. XIQ will actually proactively inform the person this has happened. And once that happens, because it's a generative AI engine, it can also help you compose a response to the person you're reaching. So within seconds, what XIQ will do is it will transform you from being somebody who's always looking at the internet, looking at LinkedIn, looking across these different channels, to somebody who's now becoming much more proactive by sending out content. And it will help you write that content. If you're sending out an email, it will help you write that email. And in writing emails, or if you want to post to social media on LinkedIn, it will help you write a LinkedIn post. the biggest challenge that we have today is in coming up with the first idea and composing the first draft. XIQ takes you through that, right?
Mm.
And once it takes you through that, now you're ready to engage. So using these tactics, our clients, which are large blue chip companies, big sales forces, selling into multi-billion-dollar technology companies and pharmaceutical companies and clinical trial companies and insurance companies, pretty much across all different industry segments, those individuals use our platform, and those people that are using XIQ are having a 4 times higher win rate than those people that are not using it. Okay, so
Right.
their
Okay.
sales has have engaged. Second thing they're having is a lot better pipeline conversion. So their conversion rates have improved a lot. And fourthly, today, increasingly the world is changing. And the way it's changing is that sales reps are expected to do demand generation as well, bring in their
Mm.
leads, qualify them. And that adds another dimension to this. And again, having it all in one platform helps. So what we've seen is for every $1 that has been invested in XIQ, the client has received $350 in return on their investment in XIQ.
Wow.
And the cost of XIQ versus your hybrid tech stack is that it is less than 2%. So you really reduced your cost if you were to consolidate to 2% of what you're currently doing, whereas you have increased your output 6 to 10x. So
Yeah. Yeah.
companies can do a lot more with fewer resources as
Yeah.
well, which is also a big trend these days, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting what you said about demand generation, lead generation. That's something I hear regularly from my clients is they don't seem to be getting the same level or quality of lead generation, and that sales teams are having to do that work themselves. They don't seem to be able to get the marketing qualified to sales qualified leads. So it's
Yeah,
interesting that you say that the system helps them with that, because that is an area of high demand. And that's fascinating, Osman. So how, if you think about where this fits with sales leadership, then, so for sales teams, it helps with sales efficiency, sales productivity, and uh, and win rates, and pipeline management. So for sales leaders, how's it benefiting them? Because it sounds like there's something in it for not just the sales team, but from a visibility and consistency as a sales leader. Having been a sales leader, and I know you have been in that situation yourself, actually consistency and helping to get that level of autonomy across the team and really standardization is one of the big challenges of leading sales teams. I mean, I'm making some assumptions here, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how it improves for sales leaders.
beautiful question, well phrased as well. And you're absolutely right. It's the repeatability of that sales process that every sales
Mm.
leader is looking for, right? And in order
Yeah.
to do that, you need to have structure. And for structure, you need to have methods and ways. If you think about it, corporate research done by salespeople,
Mm.
frontline research, is a crapshoot. Everybody's doing it their own way.
Yeah.
Everybody's jumping onto a social media network and they're trying to figure out what those people are saying when that's a very contrived, um, yeah, controlled environment. As a
Mm.
corporate person, I can't go to a social media and talk about a potential merger and acquisition. I can't talk about a lawsuit. I can't talk about a complaint against my product. I can't talk
Mm.
about anything negative. I can't talk about anything corporate information. It's limited. So I have a limited view from that. And that's where most of your sellers are fishing, right? And it's a
Yes.
low pool of fish over there. So the internet, on the other hand, is an extremely rich pool of ocean of fishes. However, they're all disparate, broken. So um, the structure is a big thing. So XIQ right there through these prompts, through the ability to walk you through a guided set of prompts on people, whether you're preparing for people, whether you're getting ready for a company, whether you're writing a social media post. All of these are different prompt libraries within our system. So all of these you can click open, click on this, prompt comes up, enter the name of the person, enter the name of the company, and Gen AI does all the rest for you, right? Composes an email, etc. So, so having this structure is super, super important, and XIQ brings that. Second thing XIQ does is it provides sales leaders the ability to look across their teams and see who is doing the work that is required to prepare and engage a client by virtue of seeing if they're using XIQ to gain insights, write emails, or compose emails. Let me rephrase that. Compose their emails, do their research, map their solutions to the client's objectives, and so on. All the best practices and the checklists that every sales leader wants their salesperson to do can now be made. And why don't they do it? Because it's very complex. Hey, have you gone and checked who their competitors are? Do you know what is your competitive differentiation versus your competitors? How would you be able to distinguish yourself in front of your client from your competitors? Those are big, hairy, audacious goals for salespeople, for anyone, right? Not just salespeople. That's a lot of research that you need to do, and that's a lot of brain power you need to bring together to be able to articulate that. And that takes a long time in companies when you're selling big, complex projects to overcome. So with XIQ serving as your solution engineer now, right, it can do that. So sales leaders love the structure. They love the fact that it can bring repeatability in, and the fact that they can see in dashboards how their users are actually performing. Are they using it? And this is a lot more transparency than they've ever had. And they can really use this information to provide remedial advice to their clients, and also to be able to replicate best practices for new sales reps that are coming on. So that's another big thing that's happening in the industry that sales leaders need to address, is that there's a lot of transition taking place right as we speak. And in order, they're bringing in a whole new breed of fresh people into sales. And those people need to get onboarded onto these complex processes and selling. And so a platform like XIQ with all of this pre-built and programmed within that can help standardize that and accelerate that onboarding process as well.
Yeah, but because recruitment and retention is an issue in every business at the moment. Almost all of my clients, one of their number one challenges is retaining really high quality people, and then if they're not able to make those retentions, then recruiting the right people and getting them up to speed as quickly as possible. So it sounds like there's an option or an opportunity in the platform to help them do that. That's really fascinating. And there's a couple of areas of my sales process that I work with clients on. The first part is building out your territory plan, making sure that you understand the market, making sure you understand your client and the market as your client sees it. And then the second part of the sales process is delivering insights. So being able to tailor messages to that client that address some kind of problem they're facing, or help them to think about some kind of ambition they have for their business. And it sounds to me, that's really interesting, because that's the early stage of the work I do with clients. And that really does seem to challenge some people, being able to, as you said quite rightly, Usman, get to a consistent, standardized approach to be able to do that, and help people to say, look, try these different resources and sources of information. That's quite to have a system that helps you to, well, I suppose, not only standardize it, but give people information that's being pushed to them, rather than them having to go out and find it all the time. Actually, that's really valuable, especially if it's dynamic and it helps the sales team with updates when there are changes. That really is something that's valuable. One of the things that I've talked to my clients about doing is setting up Google alerts, but they're not always, that's not always a consistent method, because you don't always get the right information. Whereas if you've got something that is really, proactively searching for those updates, particularly by a client, that's much more structured and much more valuable, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. And so you mentioned two things. One of them was what we refer to as a strategic opportunity assessment, which is
Mm.
placement within the market and the market assessment.
Yeah.
So again, but because XIQ has companies built into it, it has the complete, it's a one-stop shop for company. Annual reports, financials, what the C-suite is talking about, what is the news, what are the sales triggers, what is the SWOT analysis, what are their pain points, all, who are their competitors, all in one location. Saves you
Mm.
a lot of time there. But even better is that Gilroy can go and go across multiple companies, across industries, and come up with that strategic opportunity assessment for you in seconds, less than 3 seconds, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
very well articulated strategy. So I'm through step one. And then step two is the engagement part. Now, it can even help you identify job titles within the companies that you should be reaching to. It can help you bring up the names of those people. It can help you build buyer groups. It can help you start. It really goes that far deep. There's a lot of granularity built into this. It's very easy on top of that. It's pretty much click and getting things done, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that again, our pedigree coming from SAP is B2B. We understand the way the question needs to be asked, what questions need to be asked, and how to move things along, right?
Mm.
And that's what the platform is designed to help sellers do. Think about you going into a sales meeting with four virtual people supporting you right there and then. A researcher, a copywriter, a solution engineer, and a sales assistant, all
Mm.
backing you up in real
Yeah.
time.
Wow.
Different level of confidence that you'll go into that meeting with. And
Mm.
you'll accelerate the process as a result of that as well, because you'll be
Yeah.
the first responder every time.
Yeah. Wow. And how about, integration with CRM and other tools that businesses might already be using? Osman, how does XIQ work in that respect?
Yeah, so XIQ integrates with all major sales and marketing platforms.
Okay.
Um, but I also want to point out one thing that, integration is very old school thinking. And it's been, I used to be at SAP, we benefit a lot from integration, right?
Yeah.
Because you can do massive multi-billion dollar integration products, and that basically locks the client into that technology forever, right?
Mm.
So, and it also locks them into versions forever, because if you have to move one chain link, you have to make sure that the new chain link that you're going to put in replacement to that has to be compatible with everything else that's in place. And that's a multi-million dollar task right there itself, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, uh, so it does integrate with uh, sales operation systems. A CRM is a sales operation system. It is not a sales enablement system or a sales assistant system. It
Yeah.
allows you to manage. And that's another big mental mistake we make, is that we think about CRMs as the place where your sales resides. It's the place where you manage your pipeline. Your sale does not reside. It resides probably much more in your Outlook and on your LinkedIn than it
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
in your CRM, right? And now in XIQ. So
Mm. Yeah. And it's really interesting that the very best salespeople I've managed and the very best salespeople I even talk to today and who are clients of mine, one of the things that they tend to all have in common is that they hate CRM, and they're really good salespeople, but they don't like the administration or the writing up or the sales administration, I suppose we call it. And actually, it sounds like maybe XIQ can benefit those sellers, because I think those people that are really naturally good at sales, I've found they can hit a ceiling because they don't do the admin, and because they're not always consistent with the research, and they're not always able to have all of the insights they need. But they're brilliant at relationships. They're brilliant at getting winning people over and winning deals once they're in that process. But it's the attention to detail that tends to be the the Achilles heel, if you like. I mean, you must have experienced that yourself, Osman, I'm sure. How does XIQ help with that gap?
Yeah, exactly. So, um, it's, you're talking about being tidy and so on, but I think it's much more important than that. It's the objective behind the CRM systems are being pushed as sales support systems, which they're not. So they don't meet the expectation of a salesperson who expects a CRM system to aid them and help them in selling or building a relationship or understanding their clients.
Mm.
That's not what a CRM system does, but it's pushed to the the, the users, which is salespeople, as that, right? So it's a misalignment of expectations. XIQ is not a sales management system. It's a sales support and assistance system. It
Okay.
actually provides you with nuggets of information and how to use the information and who to use that information and when to use that information. This is what salespeople really care about.
Mm.
This is you coming to help me in my time of need with things that I really need, not having you do something for me, which is enter data and tell me what is the latest and greatest that I've done with that particular client, right?
Mm.
So on the one hand, you're telling me, in the case of CRM, you're telling me, hey, this thing will make you a better salesperson, but in effect, it doesn't. And it really actually sucks up my time in briefing my manager through my CRM as to
Mm.
what my activities are. It's a very bad use of time,
Yeah.
right? So, so people genuinely and rightfully should dislike that. But if there's a system that can help them understand how to peel the onion, how to, what are the nuggets of information to use, how to frame your discussion, how to bring about industry knowledge to bear on your account, then that's what our platform does.
Yeah.
And that's those are the things that salespeople need. They don't need
Mm.
to be having time updating pipelines. They need information that can help them accelerate through the cycle and
Mm.
meet new people and
Yeah.
have value-added conversations with us.
Mm. Yeah, and Osman, I'm sure you've seen this research yourself, but it's fairly recently I saw an article that talked about average sales professionals only having around 35% sales time because the rest of their time was taken up with sales administration, reporting to their boss, reviews, internal meetings, all that other work that has to be done alongside a sales role. And when you think, a third, just over a third of the time is selling and two-thirds isn't, actually anything we can do to create space for, quality sales interactions with clients, moving forward opportunities is going to benefit a business and benefit a sales team.
Yeah, I've heard an even lower number. I thought it was like 28%, but okay,
Wow.
35%,
Wow.
fine. But still, the point is, again, that integrated hybrid sales tool environment is another reason that they're spending less time. They're spending time learning how to use those 12 tools that they need to manage their sales processes across, right? So that's another thing that's sucking up their time and taking them away from what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so, exactly, if you have a shortage of time, then you need to have tools that will be able to help you do a lot more in very little time. And as I said, the kind of research that our tool, that strategic opportunity assessment that can be kicked off through a few automated prompts being used, can give you a response in seconds and minutes.
Mm.
And it takes something that would have required you weeks to do and brings it down to that. So now it's actually doable. So those
Yeah.
best practices that
Mm.
we meant and had every good intention of doing, but never found the time of the day to do it, and
Mm.
were then left to winging it because I have some experience in this. I'm an
Yeah.
experienced sales guy. I know how to handle the situation. I can dance on a hot tin roof doing that, right? That's and only a few people can. So that's what we've resorted to. Now those barriers have been removed, right?
Mm. Mm.
And so that's a very important aspect to think about how AI is actually helping transform. the sales game.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this is building this company, developing this technology and the platform and taking it out to the market. That's an incredible achievement on your behalf, Osman. So congratulations on what you've pulled together. What was it that motivated you to? Because you were a vice president at SAP. You had, I'm sure you had, great respect, great job, great role. What was it that drove you to want to do this for yourself, set something up that would be different and unique in the market?
Yeah, a couple of things. So first of all, I actually admire the sales profession. A good seller in action is a pleasure to watch, right?
Yeah.
And it's a delightful experience. They charm you, they talk you, they inform you, they educate you, they
Mm.
you know bring the charisma together, all of those things. And it's an incredible theater, if you may. But it's very few people that can actually do that. So
Mm.
my number one motivation was, how can we, and when only a few people can operate at that high level, what happens is the rest of the profession really starts dropping down and dragging their feet, and it becomes an ugly profession, the used
Mm.
car salesperson, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
The proverbial. So it becomes more like that. And so my motivation was that the genius that is sales, how can we multiply it across and upgrade all sellers to be able to operate in a much better environment? And it boiled down to two things. It boiled down to being able to make that human connection, and hence we turned to behavioral science. And it boiled down to having information and insights at the company, at the industry level, that I could use to project myself as a domain expert.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these were the best practices of the top 1% of the salespeople. And my motivation to set this up was, how can I take those top 1% of the best practices and use AI to make that really happen in the time frame that it needs to happen, and make it extremely consumable. And I'm really, and in doing so, be able to upgrade and up level the sales profession.
Wow. Yeah, an admirable kind of purpose for building a business. I really like that, Osman. It's very much aligned with what I do, but through a different lens. So you're doing it through technology and AI, and I find that fascinating actually, because it really does complement the work I do. Is about helping sales teams and sales leaders to get better at consultative selling with their customers, so that they make that time with the customer and client absolutely as impactful and positive for them and their business as possible. And the same with leaders and their teams. How do they really coach their teams to the highest levels of performance? And I'm doing it through purely behavioral training and coaching. You're doing it through AI and actually giving them the tools to improve sales efficiency, productivity, and consistency and structure. I really like that. There's definite alignment between your mission and the mission I'm on as well, and something I will be sharing with some of my clients as well. Actually, this new technology, because this is the first time I've really had exposure to this type of specific sales AI, generative AI, and behavioral science. Really interesting. Really interesting.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think this is the pragmatic approach.
Mm.
We have to change the seller's behavior. And we really don't, you can't have them running around 24 different locations to get to some, information. And secondly,
Yeah.
the stakes are really high, right?
Mm.
I'm selling to people who are very educated, who are experts in their field, who
Mm.
their companies have trusted to be able to make decisions on acquiring billions, if not billions of dollars of solutions from vendors. So they're not just your run-of-the-mill people. These are experts, they're detail-oriented people. So in
Mm.
order for you to impress them, the bar is a lot higher,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Than the average user that you would need to impress. Because these
Mm.
are people that are making decisions on behalf of those average users, and they're really the experts in that space. So in order
Mm.
to impress them, you really need to know your subject.
Mm.
And you need to be able to operate at a level where at an equal level with them, at a peer level with them. And you
Mm.
need to be able to help them think through the problems and challenges they have. That's a very, very tall order. That's a very tall order
Mm.
for anyone, right? And
Yes,
so
it is.
that's the quest that we are out there with our AI engine to help solve. is how can we, you know, if you remember the Matrix movies, Neo took a pill and suddenly he was a, 6 dan kung fu expert, right? Uh, XIQ is kind of the software equivalent of that, right? That's the concept behind it. That how can we help you transform into a domain expert and have those quality, much more strategic discussions with your clients, and therein be able to move the bar much faster because people buy from people they trust. And who do they trust? They trust the person that really knows their subject.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Yeah, that whole trusted advisor position is really important for salespeople to try and almost elevate themselves to. And actually, tools like this, where you've got all of that information at your fingertips, is a really useful way to start to create that position as the trusted advisor. I really like that. Osman, final question for me. I'm interested, given your experience and given all the things that you've kind of gone through in your career, if you were able to go back in time and talk to, maybe early 20s Osman, what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, great question. My route to where I am has been extremely circuitous. I think having some guidance, maybe not going on my own intuition so much, but having maybe somebody guide me would have accelerated my path to where I am. But at the same time, I'm actually very grateful for the fact that, my education and my first part of my career was that of an architect. And today, I'm very observant. I give a lot of attention to detail. I think through things in a design thinking manner, and I evaluate business problems in a very visual kind of manner. And I think that has assisted me. My ability to comprehend and bring a lot of different disparate pieces to formulate one picture is essentially XIQ. Because that's what we've done. What you need 12 or 20 solutions to do, you can do them in one. So my advice, I would have said, maybe a little bit more structure, maybe doing, I think everybody says this, I should have done what I should have done at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think what you learn is that you can't fake it till you make it. At some point, you got to face the facts and you got to learn it, right? And just opposed to the idea, you've got to earn the stripes. And I'm grateful for the fact that I think I have, and I continue to do so. I never forget that you've got to constantly be earning the stripes. There's no privileged elite position that you're born into. You got to constantly work hard to get to that point.
Yeah. I really love that, Osman. It's funny, I was listening to the Tony Robbins podcast this morning. It was an interview with Eckhart Tolle, and Eckhart Tolle was talking about the fact that what makes a muscle get stronger is challenging it, resistance to it, hardship on the muscle. And it's the same with our lives, right? The things that we go through that are really difficult, that are tough, that are challenging, and that's particularly in sales roles and leadership roles, actually they're the things that give us the strength of character to be able to then achieve what we need to achieve, either in our careers or in our lives. So I'm with you, actually. I love that perspective that there've been some, sometimes things have taken a little bit longer or a little more effort, or you've had to really dig deep and learn more. But actually, that makes you more capable going forward now and in the future. So it's a really useful perspective. I really love that. But the idea of perhaps finding a guide or a mentor a bit early in your career, I can relate to that too. There are times when I perhaps went the long way round to figure things out, and it would have been easier if I'd been able to identify someone that could have perhaps helped me to see the path forward more clearly. But great insights.
No, I agree. I think I wish I had some mentor or guidance at early stage of my life and career. I think that would have been really, really helpful. So yeah, you got to pay the dues and you got to work hard. There's no substitute to that.
Completely agree. I don't know many people that are successful that haven't worked really hard to get there. That seems to be baked in to part, the way in which we get to where we need to get to.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. So it's been a wonderful conversation today. Thanks so much for your time, Osman. If people want to find you, where's the best place to look you up?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, USMAN, Usman, last name Sheikh, SHEIKH,
Brilliant.
LinkedIn, and just put in XIQ. And our company's website is xiqinc.com. So those are the best
Brilliant.
places. And XIQ on LinkedIn is also a pretty active page. So
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Osman. I'll share those links into the notes from today's episode as well. So people should be able to click through to get to them from the show notes of today's podcast recording as well. It just remains for me to say thanks so much for sharing your ideas, your experience, and everything about the business XIQ. Really exciting. Wish you every success in your further growth and your mission to help sales teams and sales leaders to improve their efficiency. Really appreciate your time, Osman. Thanks so much.
thank you, Justin, for having me. Really enjoyed the conversation. You had some really intelligent questions and insightful questions.
Thank
Well,
you.
as you were saying, every muscle needs to be challenged to grow. So those are
Yeah.
good, challenging questions. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for your complete answers. I really, really, really enjoyed the session. Thanks so much. And wishing you every success. Thanks, Osman. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Usman Sheikh. Some really insightful information here about how sales is changing. It's much more dynamic an environment now. There's the use of AI and other tools that really are starting to help sales professionals get the leading edge. And if your business is perhaps not embracing some of those tools, perhaps this is a signal to start to lobby for some of that technology that's really going to help with sales enablement and sales efficiency. And of course, combine that with the right sales approach, quality sales interactions, understanding how to read the customer, how to ask the highest quality questions, and how to really tailor your sales approach to your client. Actually, when you combine the technology with the right sales skills, you really do give yourself that leading edge. You become the top 1 to 5% of sales performers in your industry. If you'd like to hear from Usman, his details are in the show notes. If you'd like to contact us about one of our Focus for Growth sales training programs in combination, then please feel free to reach out to us. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Inspire Sales Podcast. Genuine thanks for listening to the Inspire Sales Podcast. We hope you enjoy learning some of the most cutting-edge sales techniques and getting close to some of the greatest sales leaders in the world now and in the future. If you'd like to explore further, please feel free to visit our website, focusforgrowth.co.uk. And if you'd like to take our Sales Acceleration Scorecard and discover your sales and influencing score, then check out the show notes for the link in the bio. If you have enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button. If you know people in your sales and leadership network that you think would like to listen to, then please share this episode with them. I'd be very grateful. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so. If you have suggestions for further guests, or if you'd like to appear yourself, please contact me or my team. You can connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. My social profiles are in the show notes, and I look forward to being with you on the next episode. Thanks again for listening. See you soon.